And welcome back as we continue here on this Monday. And as we have done every Monday during the college football season, we head down to Baton Rouge and welcome in Coach Brian Kelly. Coach, good afternoon. Thank you for being here on what I'm sure is a very difficult but busy day trying to get ready for yet another SEC game. Good afternoon.
Yeah, no doubt. It's the nature of this conference. Each and every week is a battle. The new battle for us is Vanderbilt, and Clark Lee's done a great job of staying the course, being consistent with his program and what he wants to achieve, and having a breakthrough season, obviously highlighted with the win against Alabama.
Coach, if we could go back for just a second, I know there's no easy way to describe what happened. We all watched it, but what would you have to say to everyone who follows LSU, who is extremely disappointed today?
Well, we share the same feelings. Obviously, football is very important in the state of Louisiana, and not to have the positive outcomes that you want, it wears on everybody. But we're going to be relentless in our preparation and looking at all the things necessary for us to be successful. Now, look, we've had three games now, and I will exclude the Alabama game from it, where we had the lead late in the third quarter and weren't able to close out games. And look, you can spin it any way you want, but the reality of it is our players believe that they could have won and should have won those games. If that's the case, we're sitting here in a whole different situation, probably one of the top teams in the country. So it's up to us now to really figure out, how do we close out these games? What are the things that we need to avoid? And I think it's pretty clear. One, we got to score more points. Averaging 17 points over the last three games is not going to get that done in this conference. And second, giving up too many explosive plays. So the third quarter, late in the third quarter, where we've had leads and chances to win games, you have to be good at closing teams out. And that is not giving up big plays defensively and putting points on the scoreboard, and in particular, touchdowns, not field goals.
Coach, you've had an incredible career. I think that's been well established, but I wonder because I don't have any recollection of something like this happening to you at your previous stop at Notre Dame. What do you lean on in terms of trying to deal with what has to be one of the most exasperating periods of your career?
Yeah, I think we find that, when you're in this business for over 3 decades, you're going to have some adversity, and we're going through that right now. And so they need great leadership. You need to stand up and be counted in terms of the buck stops with me. And then you look at your process that you've had for over 3 decades, and where does it need to be tweaked? Where do you need to make some changes, if any changes are needed, relative to what you do on a day-to-day basis? Here's what I know. Our guys have played hard, have had chances to win the game. We have not come up when our best is needed. So we got to look at our preparation. We got to look at how we play call, how we do everything, how I talk to the team on a day-to-day basis. Everything is on the table for discussion as we try to work through this very difficult time.
Coach, I know those are things that you naturally do when the season ends, but how difficult is that to try to do in real time?
Well, I think it starts with, getting your players to, give them feedback that, look, what do we need to start doing better? What are the things as coaches and players that we need to stop doing? And then, effectively, what do we need to continue to do? So I think it's ownership. I think it's, sharing in that autonomy that you open up and say, all right, what are the things that we can do better for you? What do we need to make sure that we close out these games? So you're having open, frank, honest discussions with your players. We'll have a leadership meeting this afternoon. We'll talk in greater detail about those things, and then we'll go back to work, because our preparation has been really good. It's the performance late in games that has led to our inability to close out and come up with victory. So we know where it's at. We can target it. Now we got to go do something about it.
Coach, I realized during a game, I've never been a coach, but I've been on sidelines. There's a lot of things that are said. And they're heated moments. As you undoubtedly know, a couple of situations have been disseminated in the media between you and your players. Could you address that for a moment?
Yeah, I find it, kind of interesting that I am the only coach in the country that has conversations with their players on the sideline. But be that as it may, we were having a coaching moment with one of my wide receivers. who is desperately wanting to make big plays for us. That's all he thinks about. And he's pressing a little bit. So, having a conversation with him on the sideline to help him through that. But you got to understand, this is the emotion of the game that is happening at the same time. And then we had another player that wanted the football. And I love that about our players. Any competitor wants the football. But again, you have to be able to measure it by making sure that the emotion doesn't take over for what you're trying to accomplish at the time. And unfortunately, sometimes, the camera is in our office where we're working, and that comes with being the head coach at a high profile institution like LSU. Again, you have to measure it by what's happening during the game. And both those kids wanted nothing but the best. They were emotional at the time, but they're two great kids.
Coach, because of your prominence, naturally, when things don't go well, everybody starts to chirp a little bit. I know that you want to keep that noise outside of your players and even your coaches, if it's even possible. But I'm sure somebody tells you about it. How do you deal with that part of the job?
Well, look, as I mentioned to you before, Paul, and your show is an indication of the passion for college football, in particular in the SEC. When you don't have the outcomes that everybody wants, the first reaction is, how do we change it? What do we do to change it? Because they don't have the inside information on the day-to-day what's going on here. So the best way to change it is to get rid of people, get rid of the coach, get rid of the play caller, bench the player. But there's so much more to that, and clearly in this instance, we've done too many good things in building this football program that we're not going to panic. We're going to stick with our process. We're going to get better at the things that I've mentioned to you in our conversation. Again, I think that the most important thing is that we feel the same pain that everybody in this state of Louisiana feels. But we're going to be tireless in our preparation and making sure that we get this thing moving in the right direction.
I realize you have 2 games remaining, but there's another component to being successful, and that's recruiting. And by all the recruiting surveys, LSU is at the top of the heap. And I realize specifically you can't talk about what is going on, but it is part of what is ensuing. How critical is it for you to hold on to this recruiting class and to get these players in quickly?
Well, certainly, anytime that there's some losses, people are going to ask questions, just like I mentioned before. But we've been in constant conversation with our recruiting class. If you're just starting to pick up the phone now and talk to them, you're going to lose them. I think that we look at all the schools in the SEC. There's going to be additions and deletions in these last couple of weeks, and that's just the nature of where we are today with NIL, the revenue sharing that's coming on board. But relationships are really what this is at the core. And if you've got the right relationships, you're going to hold on to your players regardless of the situation. Now, does it make it easier if you're winning all your games? Absolutely. Does it mean it'll be great that you don't have the chirping because you've had a couple of losses? Yeah, but it comes with that. So now it's important for us to lean on those relationships. And the reason why you came here from the very beginning was to help us win a championship. And that's what we'll be talking to our recruits about.
Coach, thank you very much. I know it's not an easy time. We wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay, take Paul. Thank you, Paul.
You bet. Coach Brian Kelly joining us from Baton Rouge on a very manic Monday in college football. We'll take a short break.